it's really been loving kindness that has been the biggest help on the journey, outside of, I'd have to say, my own Tibetan master, my own teacher. But in terms of a quality, in terms of something inside of me that I can find solace with, that is helpful for me, it's really been loving kindness. I think of it as like a balm that soothes. When I was about 22, I was in therapy, and one day my therapist said to me, "What about self-love?" I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And she didn't say much. She said, "Oh, well, just think about it." And I proceeded to start contemplating, what is self-love? It became the koan of my life. What one of my Zen teacher friends called the real koans, the ones that life presents us. And I just kept thinking, like, what would that feel like? What would that look like? What is that? And I was mulling this over for a few years. And when I was, I think, 26 or so, I went to the Himalayas for the first time. I had met my Tibetan Buddhist teacher, as Jack Kornfield calls him, an antique master, one of the antique masters. I had met him in San Francisco, and prior to that I'd been studying mysticism and all different religions and praying to meet my actual teacher. And a friend dragged me off to meet this Tibetan Lama one night, and I instantly knew it was him. That's never changed now in 30-some years. And so he said, "Well, if anybody wants to study with me, you can come to my monastery and study." So I thought, great, okay. So I finished up all my affairs and packed up my 5-year-old, and we went to Darjeeling in India to study. Nobody had heard of Darjeeling in those days. It was pre-Darjeeling tea days. Through that practice of really learning to be present with years of retreat, and through the development of the loving kindness that luckily had already opened up by the time I went into 3-year retreat, because otherwise doing that amount of practice without some self-love is really a difficult experience. So I was very fortunate to have had that therapist say that to me when I was young. So I was able to be not as judgmental about myself and be more loving with myself in retreat. So through the cultivation of unconditional presence, through all the practices, the willingness to be with what is, and the development of the loving kindness of self, I noticed after a while working, especially with really difficult clients, the borderline and personality disorder clients, that I noticed that what was happening was I was seeing their pure being. I was not seeing their pathology. And I think this is what we actually all do as therapists, without consciously being aware that that's what we're doing. I think, of course, we also have to see the pathology in order to be able to address it properly and really be of use to our clients. But I think the reason we're able to work with people and be effective is that we actually see beyond the pathology to a deeper sense of who they truly are. And if we have the eyes to see, we can just fully open to who they are as a being